Okay, so welcome to PAECT's webinar, Let's Code. This is very exciting because we have some people joining us tonight or this afternoon who are really in the know when it comes to computer science, education for kids, and then what computer science looks like whenever you are in the workforce. So I would like to start by introducing Aaron Hobson. Aaron Hobson is a curriculum writer for Code.org, and he is joining us for the first few minutes to tell us about the exciting things that are happening in his world, hi Jen, as well as computer science education. So Aaron, we'll let you begin.
All right. Wow. Thanks for the introduction. So yeah, I'm Aaron. I actually just started at Code.org about 2 months ago. Before that, I was doing some work with Google, writing high school curriculum for a computer science program that they have called Code Next. It's like a pilot program. So I was sort of writing some of the initial curriculum for that. And before that, I worked for a nonprofit out of Oakland called Level Playing Field Institute. Now it's just called SMASH. SMASH used to be one of their programs, which is a really intense like STEM program for underrepresented minorities, where they spend all of this time on college campuses, learning computer science, biology, everything, all of the STEM stuff, but also learning about like identity. And anyway, the only reason I mention all that because this is all sort of like my background coming into Code.org is not only the CS aspect, but also sort of like the sort of real context that kids learn STEM in, right? Why are they learning STEM? Why are we trying to get so many more, underrepresented kids into, especially computer science right now? And what are the ways that we can design curriculum that, speaks to them, that's relevant, that's, exciting, engaging, all of that. So at Code.org, I'm still learning, sort of my way around this environment. But what I can say is that that's actually one of the biggest things on the table is making the curriculum, because that's one of the challenges that we have is we're a national organization. Everyone is using our stuff international at this point. It's translated in so many languages. So how do you make, for example, a lesson on loops, right? How do you make that relevant? How do you make it something that's engaging, compelling?
Yes.
They're going to walk away with saying, hey, I'm excited about loops. Or maybe they're not excited about loops, but what they can do with loops. How do we make it more project based? That's the other thing we're talking a lot about is having a lot more opportunities for kids to express themselves through project work. How do we give teachers more freedom in the classroom to decide to differentiate based on where their students are, how much they know about their students, what they don't know about the students? How can we assist them with assessment? How can we build certain things in the tool that makes it easier in the website itself, that makes it easier for teachers to know, okay, I probably should hide this lesson for that student, but for this student, I think I'm going to expand this part, or maybe I'll give them these extra activities. And on top of that, sort of another layer to it is most of the teachers we work with are brand new to computer science. They've either never studied it before, or they never taught it. So how do we make the teachers feel confident enough to make those kind of like, spot checks, while also sort of being more facilitators than, necessarily teachers, right? Lecturing and so forth. How do we make it so that the teachers feel like they're confident in doing that, given that they're still sort of learning with the students? We just finished, the first week of December, which is, the whole Hour of Code thing that we do. That's what we started. What was it, 2012, 2013? Somebody probably can correct me on that. We started, Code.org launched in 2013. But yeah, that was huge. I actually got a chance to go teach at a couple schools here. I live in the Bay Area in California. So I used to work in Oakland. So I actually went to an elementary school And I actually got to teach Hour of Code with some kids there using our dance party. I don't know if you guys have done that yet, but it's a lot of fun. The kids had so much fun. I took pictures, videos. You know, we had a great time. So we're just coming fresh off of that, and now we're just headed into, you know, this new year with all these questions in mind. You know, we have, you know, the whole kindergarten through 5th grade. That's our CS Foundations curriculum. That's actually what I'm primarily working on. And then we have the middle school course, which is CS Discoveries. Then after that, we have our CS Principles class, which is the high school course. So we're deep into like thinking about, well, everybody has a sort of a different concern right now, depending on what you're working on. If you're working on the principles class, then you're thinking about, well, CS Principles, actually the framework just got changed. You know, the test is different this year. So, oh my God, we got to go back and rethink some of this curriculum that we already have, and you know, repurpose it.
Do you mind if I barge in?
Go ahead.
The principles, that's the AP course at the high school that you're talking about, correct?
Yes.
Oh, your husband. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry if I didn't provide any context for any of this stuff. I don't know. I don't even know who's in this who's in the call. I guess I assumed everybody was already a CS teacher. I'm sorry if I'm going off mentioning CS principles. And yeah, that's the high school. It's the brand. It's pretty much new, because before that we had CS A, which was advanced placement computer science. That was like the only computer science class that was advanced placement. And that was I used to teach that class. It was a hardcore Java class, like, you know, and a lot of kids just didn't want to take it, or they couldn't take it because it wasn't even offered at their school. Most of the time, you know, the schools where it was offered were already sort of like a little more well-to-do. Schools where I was working, you know, they didn't really have any computer science at all. So this principles class kind of came out, and it's like, well, let's make it a lot more accessible, not only to kids, but to teachers. You can teach that class with very little background, if any. I think that there's so many training programs for it, you know, and your kids can still learn, you know, what computer science is, and make, you know, those kinds of decisions. Like, man, maybe I might want to major in this when I go to college, or maybe I might want to minor in it, or, you know, maybe learn more on my own, right? Because they're building so many things in there. They're learning, you know, JavaScript or whatever language it happens to use. It's agnostic, actually. You can teach it with Python if you want to, or Scratch, or whatever. But yeah, that's our high school offering. You know, it's just the CS. It's one of many. There's many other organizations that offer a principles curriculum, but we just happen to offer that one.
Thank you. So what I heard was that you are working a lot with making it equitable for kids across the board, and that you are looking to add more projects. And is that K-12 through the whole scope of it?
Yes. I think the biggest challenge, at least from what I've seen so far, is the younger grades, you know, like kindergarten. How do you make a computer science project for kindergarten where they're like writing code and, you know, they're building apps or something, you know? So that's actually, because I was doing so much high school before I started here. That's the reason I have 2 young kids myself now. And I actually have my last graduate degree was in elementary math. So I've always sort of been in that space, Piaget, Vygotsky, you know, all of that. So I came in thinking, okay, now it's time for me to really think about this, you know, this whole project-based or problem-based learning for very young kids. How do they still feel like they're building something when they can barely even like read at that point, you know, if at all? But yeah, that starts from kindergarten all the way through. We want kids to really feel like they're proud of their work, that they can build something. Personally, I would really love to see more physical type computing, but unfortunately, we don't have the resources for that. Not too much. I know we have like a Adafruit middle school thing with our Discoveries class, I believe, but I see kids get really excited when they just get to like manipulate something like a robot, or, you know, Legos, or, you know.
So do you mind if I ask you another question? And then
yes,
okay, so my other question is this. If I am understanding correctly, if I remember correctly, the updated curriculums will be coming out in the summer, at the end of summer. So some of us have yet to dip our toes into code.org. Some of us are like all in. Are we going to see a lot of changes for the kickoff of the next school year, or subtle changes, or what can we look forward to?
That is a great question. So from what I understand, the history has been if you go to like any particular, let's say you've never taught it before, or even if you have, if you go to any particular unit, there's that little box up there where you can choose the year. So if you go there right now, any particular unit that we have, by default, it'll take you to 2018, to the current version. But you can choose, let's say you were just used to the curriculum that we had last year, you can actually choose 2017 and it'll let you see that version. So it's almost like one of those rolling release models from what I can tell, or maybe like a long-term, actually it's more like a long-term support kind of thing where if we have some curriculum from 3 years ago, it's hard for us to support that as much. A large part of that is because maybe the person that wrote it isn't even here anymore, or, we've changed the model so much. But at least the way it's working right now, for CSF, I can speak to that definitively. We're not changing it. We're not doing any massive overhaul. If anything, we're just sort of restructuring some of the lessons by sort of reorganizing them, making them fit in a better place. One thing that I noticed when I started was that some of the lessons for CS Foundations, which is the K-5 curriculum, some of the lessons in any particular grade, they just kind of felt like they were scattered. Like 1 minute we're talking about, conditionals, and then we got like some kind of lesson on privacy, and then we have another lesson on like loops or something. It just felt like it was just sort of scattered. So one thing that you will notice if you teach the K-5 curriculum is we sort of try to make it more modular. So it's like, you have like these subunits, and we're trying to get where those are labeled as well. So it'll say like unit 1 or part 1, or variables, something like that. So that if you were a brand new teacher, it's easier for you to pick it up and say, okay, I know exactly what I'm teaching here. If you've already taught, you might say, wait, this looks different, but it's pretty much the same lessons. We've done a lot of bug fixing too. There were like bugs. We're always doing that anyway, but one of the things I'm also focusing on is just going on is just sort of like, okay, this puzzle says it's supposed to solve this problem, or this is the solution, but it's not working. So how can I make that? Maybe instructions need to be clear, that kind of stuff. But no massive overhauls. Probably the biggest overhaul is the principles class, just because that's the class that's beholden to the test, right? Unfortunately, but everybody has to go through that. If you write any curriculum that's supposed to be tested, like the standardized test stuff. So.
Thank you, Aaron. We are going to have some breakout rooms in just a second where there are some practitioners that can speak to how they've implemented code.org in the classroom with young children and with older elementary kids. But if it's okay, Aaron, if we open it up to anyone that has a specific question for you, is that all right?
Yeah,
okay, so if anyone has a question, you can unmute your mic, let us know who you are, and then ask away.
I had a question. This is Kristen Albright. I'm in State College, but I'm also the regional director for PAECT. PAECT, everyone should join PAECT if they haven't, given a little shout out there. But my question was for you about the K-5 curriculum. We found that kindergarten jumps really quickly into some pretty advanced skills. Is there a way to back that off a little bit? Do you have any suggestions for that? Because they were doing fine with some of the original coding, but then all of a sudden it got into a lot of more complicated algorithms within the next few levels. They did fine at the beginning. I'm not really explaining myself well. Do you understand what I'm asking?
I know exactly what you mean. Man, this is like one of those questions where there's like a whole bunch of ways that we could even. So one of the things is, I don't know if you noticed that we got rid of Jigsaw. Remember that first? It used to be that Jigsaw thing.
Yeah.
Like I remember back in it was actually when I was working in elementary. That's how I would sort of introduce coding to like really young kids, is having them, because they couldn't even use the trackpad. They were still trying to figure out, and I believe the story that I heard when I started was they got rid of that because they figured they could sort of kill two birds with one stone. The first lesson in kindergarten, and that's course A for anybody that doesn't know. Course A is our kindergarten class. Is supposed to be like teaching you how to drag and drop as well as how to sequence things. And a lot of teachers have written in, parents have written in saying, hey, what happened to Jigsaw? This is, my kids can't do this yet, And we didn't necessarily, that's when I found out we didn't get rid of Jigsaw. We just moved it to a different place. So you can actually still get to Jigsaw, but it's a different URL. That's all. And it's kind of like its own, So that's another thing that I'm actually working on is, now this isn't about I'll get to the sequence, the algorithm stuff in a second, but one of the things that I'm working on is reincorporating that part into the first lesson or two, but still killing the two birds. So it's not just dragging a happy face or, a dog or something. It's still CS related, but maybe it's something like, hey, drag the mouse onto the tower or something. So it's giving them some language, drag the monitor onto the, or even like, what is a computer? Like we think of a computer as just a desktop or a laptop. Well, actually, this is a computer too. Whoa, did you know that that's a computer? So it's like, click on all the computers and drag them, or, something like that. Now, in terms of the way it jumps, that's something I'm gonna have to really just dig in even deeper and just get as much data as I can. And find out exactly where. Is it any particular level? Is it like an entire level, or is it certain like bubbles within certain levels?
They go from doing just basic algorithms to adding loops really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And then the loops, because they don't know how to multiply, they have a hard time understanding the sequencing with numbers and the counting. I think I back it off, and I love the unplugged activities. I find that if you use the unplugged activities, it helps a lot to build some of those skills. We pull them in small groups and have them do those, but there's a huge jump from just basic, and we want them to feel really successful in kindergarten because their frustration level is like super quick. We started ours, actually, I did the Pre-Reader Express with kindergarten and then did first grade with A. But there's a huge jump all of a sudden.
I would like, if you wouldn't mind, when we break up into the groups, we have a kindergarten teacher that actually did go through the kindergarten course A last year that might have some implementation ideas for you as well, because she kind of customized it a little bit. So it might not be, it might be a good sounding board, if that's okay. Are there any other questions for Aaron?
I want to add one more thing too, is the teachers are the most important. Like, it's not like, well, we know it. No, you guys know. So yeah, tell us that stuff. We have like a place for you to submit bugs. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that, but it's not necessarily bugs. It can be any kind of feedback. But also we have like forums where teachers get on there and they're like discussing things, and we watch that stuff. We'll participate in those discussions. So yeah, I mean, I'm totally down to like just really just diagnose all of that and figure out, maybe that jump is too much right away. Maybe there's like a missing lesson in there, missing, practice. Maybe you need more practice before that, or, kids are, that's another thing. Kids are so different, when they're that young too. Like you have a kid that's been on a computer since he was 2. Then you got another kid that's never even really touched one, except for a cell phone, right? So there's just so much differentiation, and but yeah, please give me all that feedback.
And just to piggyback on that, if you want feedback, I'm sure that we have people here who would be more than happy if you want us to test things out or try something and please, please, please let us know, and I'll follow up with an email to remind you of that. Okay.
I had to do like a pilot study.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, we would be good data collectors for you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Does anybody else have a question before? Okay.
I think my email address was that shared out too, or because I can provide that if anybody later on thinks of a question or
Yep, and if you wouldn't mind, Erin, putting that in the chat, that would be awesome. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Oh, that's easy.
2 A's.
Thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure that everybody here appreciates the time that you took with us. So have a good rest of your day. It sounds like you have a lot of curriculuming to do.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a lesson. I guess real quick, I'll spoil it a little bit. This is an unplugged lesson for first grade where they're actually designing apps for animal characters. So like there's a bat who can't see that well. So you have to design an app. They're just sketching it out. It's unplugged. But you have to sketch out a music app for the bat. The bat can't see that well. One of the apps that he can choose from has all these little tiny buttons. And then another one has a big giant green button that you just press it and you just sing part of the song you want to hear and it plays the rest of the song back. So this whole like lesson is sort of introducing not only, user interface design, if you want to call it that, but also empathy and just sort of like designing for others, sort of stepping out of yourself and saying, wow, if I was a bat, what kind of app would I want? Like, I can't see that well, but anyway. All right, more to come. Thank you.
Thank you. It sounds like we're connecting design thinking and computational thinking, and
that's where I'm going.
That's our jam. Okay. Thank you, Erin. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So that was very kind of him. He just did that as a volunteer, and I think that's important to know. What we had planned next, and please jump in, Eric. Not Eric Bieber, because you're like, I don't know what's going on. The other Eric. We are going to have 3 breakout rooms based on what you shared during your registrations. And one of our breakout rooms is going to be with Renee, and she's our Decker. If you're looking at the panel, she's going to be facilitating the conversation, and it's supposed to be a conversation. So, we're hoping that you share ideas and ask questions. And I think Ryan is joining that group too, Ryan Berger. So he's going to be facilitating as well. And they have a little different wheelhouse, I think. Ryan, I know that you've done a lot with robotics with little kids, and Renee has gone through code.org too with kindergartners. So I think that they'll be able to ask questions and get information and share ideas. The second group, Regina Peckman is going to be facilitating that conversation. And that's for folks who are like, okay, I've done programming in my class and maybe I want to take a look at what might be next. She's done a lot with robotics. She's done a lot with Unplugged. She's used different platforms so she can share ideas with you as well as gather, crowdsource good information from you as well. And then the third breakout room we are going to have is actually a career connection. Eric Bieber is a Penn State graduate. He went there for computer science, and he is now working for Google in Pittsburgh. So he can kind of give us an idea of what do kids need and what was helpful and what are the kind of things that he's doing now. If there are more than one breakout room that you want to go to, we have to choose one. And we'll let you self-select. So we'll put Renee and the people that are more primary and are just saying, okay, I did the hour of code, now what? They'll go with Renee and Ryan. And then the people that are like, okay, I think I've had this going on and I want to find some extension kind of things for kids, they'll go in breakout room 2. And for people that want to have that career connection, we'll go in breakout room 3 with the other Eric Bieber. And then we'll come back in about 10 minutes and we'll kind of do a sharing, and we have some resources for you because I know that there are some specific things that people had asked for, like the Pennsylvania Smart Targeted Grant and resources for Swift playgrounds and things like that. Eric, do you have anything to add?
I mean, you pretty much covered everything, so not much I have to say. But we can use the time to the last 10 minutes or so together to also share ideas that we learned from the rooms that we participated in. So if there are 2 rooms that you want to go to, having some dialogue after to hear about what people learned might be a way for you to get information from that other room as well. So just wanted to bring that in. And Amy and I both have some resources to share out as well. So that way you hopefully can get some of those answers question that you provided us when you registered for this event. So let's get to it. Oh, Amy, you're still muted.
We do have a document with some ideas already, and let's see here. Anyone with a link can access. Okay. I'm hoping that I have it so that everybody can share, can edit it. But if not, I'll go in and change it once we break up into our rooms, and then you can add notes to it too. Would that be okay? Okay. So I'll make the breakout rooms. We're gonna set the timer, Eric, 10 minutes. Okay, so we'll set the timer for 10 minutes, and at the end of 10 minutes, you'll get a 1-minute warning. We'll come back together. And please unmute the mic if you need help getting to a breakout room.
I need help figuring out how to move myself.
Okay, Emily, where would you like to go?
The room for people that just tried Hour of Code and have done nothing else.
Okay, let me see. I can do that, I think. Where are you? Emily, sign to. Okay, you're going.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I also need help.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. Who is I?
Tara Pollock.
Okay, and Tara, where would you like to go?
I'd like to go to the middle level or the mid one.
Yep. Okay, you're going.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I need help also.
Okay, Jane, where would you like to go?
Room 2.
Okay.
Kristen Albright, I didn't see any links to go to a breakout room.
Okay, which room would you like to go to?
The beginning one. I'll go to that one.
Okay, and you're in North Central. Yep, breakout room 1. Okay. Anyone else?
Deb Kirby. I don't see the links either. I don't know where the links are to go to the breakout rooms. I wanted to go to 2.
2? Okay, I am going to put you there now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it looks like Erin wants to go to 3 and Barbara 2.
Barbara wants to go to 3? Okay. And then Sarah, I've Jen Trout.
Jen is also in 3.
3, okay. There we go. And L Polk, which one is for high school beginners? Um,
I'd say maybe the middle one.
is that okay?
I would say so because I think the beginning one.
It'd be too basic.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we just have Rochelle. Oh, and she's gotten there. Okay. And do you have one that you want to join?
Yeah, if you could send me to the third one, that'd be great.
Okay.
Not much. Oh, hi, Amy. Maybe you have some ideas about what we should do now.
Okay, so this is where you get to field questions because
Okay,
you are
sounds
a recent graduate. You have had some computer science courses in high school, I know, but I don't think there were a lot offered at the time. So I would think that maybe if you wouldn't mind just sharing what you do and what a typical day looks like for you as somebody who's in the field, and then we can take questions from the group. Would that be okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, so I am a software engineer at Google. That's the general large bucket that almost everyone that does engineering at Google falls into. There's a few more specialized things, but that's your general purpose software engineering, computer science role at most of the tech companies. My average days, there's lots of things that go on. Sometimes I write code. Sometimes I'm stuck in meetings all day talking about future things we want to do or planning out the stuff that we want to implement in the future. Sometimes I'm writing documents and designing new projects that we're going to build. Sometimes we get to do analysis, like we run experiments. There might be something new we want to do, like change up the way we do something in Google search or the ads that get shown, and we'll have tests where we have like A/B experiments, and then we'll do analysis of how does that impact users, how do they click on things differently, how does it change revenue, and basically every day throughout the year is just different depending on what my current focus is, but those are the large buckets of things I do.
Do you have any questions? I'm kind of wondering what kind of skill sets you need, because I think it's probably more than just coding.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, one thing is once you get a little bit higher up, there gets to be a point where you stop coding entirely, which is not necessarily a good thing that people like, but you just kind of move into that role where you're doing a lot more design than you are coding, and you are doing so much of that and discussing with other people that you don't even have time to write code anymore. So critical thinking is basically the most important thing. Logic and reasoning skills is something that you use constantly, whether or not you're coding or analyzing things, designing something new. That's kind of the core skill set that is broadly applicable to basically everything I do.
Do we have any questions?
If you were to think back on your time in high school and where you are now, what do you wish you would have had more of or less of in that time?
Yeah, so in high school, the extent of what I did with computer science was a graduation exit project where I just took it on myself to learn a little bit of coding. But that was the extent of everything I had in high school. And I know that my school has changed quite a bit since I graduated, where they have all of these different offerings for learning to code and doing projects. Do you have something to add?
They currently offer 5 courses.
5, yeah. So when I was there, there was maybe like an HTML class that was a pretty short time span, and that was about it. So there's all sorts of things. They have AP classes now, so getting to do some of those would have been great. the things that were valuable to me when I was there was basically I just took all of the math classes that I could. And at least in my mind, a lot of the skills that you pick up with math are pretty cross applicable to most of what goes on in computer science.
Thank you.
Thanks. I didn't realize that you didn't have any computer science.
Yeah, there were very few offerings, and what was there, it was like HTML, which was felt a little bit like regurgitating stuff, but I think the classes now are much more engaging and useful.
So Aaron and Jen and Edith and Barbara, what kind of things are you hoping to learn from Eric? Do you have any questions or any insights as to what your schools look like? Barbara?
Which languages do you use for coding?
You say, which languages do I use?
Yes.
In my day-to-day work, it's primarily C++. At Google, our main languages are C++, Java, and JavaScript, also some Python, and then it's so big of a company that you can find a little smattering of like another 20 languages if you look hard enough. But it's mostly C++. It's a team-to-team thing. So whatever project you work on kind of depends on what language that determines what language you're working with.
Thank you.
Hmm?
Aaron has a question. It says, what should we do to encourage or give realistic expectations for our kiddos who love to code, the hour of code for future jobs? That's a great question, Aaron.
Yeah, so I think it's realistic for just about anyone to have a legitimate chance at working at any of these big tech companies they want to, or working at some startup. And we talked to someone from code.org, and those are great for learning things. There's all of these Khan Academy classes. There's lots of free college classes that you can take and just learn whatever computer science skills you want. And if you find some data structures or algorithms class out there on the internet, there's a bunch of free ones. I've found free textbooks. That was basically the skills that I learned when I was doing interviews for Google. I hadn't had my college classes yet. I went to an advisor in college. He pointed me at some resources in a textbook, said you should go study these things. And that was basically what got me through my interviews at Google. So, if you have the motivation to go out and learn these things, it's completely realistic to be looking at trying to have a career at like Netflix or Facebook or Microsoft. And these companies are hiring so many people and they're always hungry for more talent. So if you have the will to go learn these things, then it's definitely.
Hey there, does anybody need some help in the main room? Was anyone caught mid-sentence? I hope not. Did you finish? Were you able to finish sharing?
Yeah, I know we were in some good conversation, so we might have got a little cut out. It's all right.
I'm sorry if anybody got cut off. I couldn't think of the word. Eric said that there were some good conversations happening in breakout room 2, and I'm sure that there were good conversations happening in breakout 1 as well. I don't want anybody to feel like they're leaving saying, I wish I woulda, or I didn't get to that question, or I wanted to connect with somebody. On that document, you now have editing access. At the very, very bottom, there's a table for contact information. If you wouldn't mind adding your name and then how you prefer to be contacted, whether it be your Twitter handle or your email or whatever you want to use, that would be really helpful for us in moving forward and keeping those conversations going. But Eric, I think we wanted to have some time just for a share as well. Do you want to?
Just add my information. So I also just want to say I posted a link both in the document as well as in our chat. This was the about the presentation that I attended today, and it offers some free coding resources, but it also offers, well, it shows how to connect to robotics, like what robotics are great for which grade band that you teach. So you can take a look at that. And yeah, take a look at that and see if anything relates to you. Does anyone want to share anything or any questions they still have, or share anything that they learned from our breakout sessions? I know they're pretty quick. So I would say that, you know, reaching out to people, reaching out to our presenters who facilitated the breakout rooms if you have further questions, and connecting with them for further information and support. But does anyone have anything to share out that they'd like to bring to the whole group?
I'll go first. I did not realize that when Eric Bieber, who is our Penn State grad and Google software engineer, and you only graduated a couple years ago, there were no computer science courses at his high school, and now there are 5. So I think that that's really pretty phenomenal as far as the district and the way that they're moving forward.
I just have more of a question for everyone, and I know we talked about it in our room. I had like 30 seconds to ask my question. I teach middle school, and I sent my kids to do Hour of Code, and I got lots of positive feedback, which is great, except now I'm not sure where to go from here. Like I teach 7th grade history, so like how to integrate it within my curriculum so it's not just some random thing. And you can email me later or whatever, because I don't want to derail the whole conversation, but just looking for other history people as to how they got it.
Emily, will you add that question to the document beside your contact information? That's a great question, because it shouldn't necessarily be something on top of. We want it to be kind of seamless and part of what we do. Anyone else?
I could just add a little bit to that. Some of what we do as far as the types of technology we use and where we go from there is we have the kids identify a problem. So I'm thinking, you know, as a history teacher, what is a problem that maybe, you know, someone has encountered, or in your community, I don't know where you are in your history, and then how can it be solved using technology, and then, you know, the types of technology that you can use. Is where I'm to make those kind of curricular connections.
And Eric Bieber, if you wouldn't mind just jumping in, because you said that your job as a software engineer is a little bit more than coding. So if you can just kind of give us a little like 30-second rundown to kind of, help us see the bigger picture, that would be helpful.
Sure, yeah. So a lot of the things that I do, there's definitely a bunch of coding involved, but also a bunch of design work. Like we identify problems, try and find where is the best place to be spending our time to solve these problems, designing solutions for that. But then we also do some things like experimentation, A/B testing of new features that we want to try out, and then evaluating the performance of those and figuring out what's a good thing to do.
Anyone else?
Going back to Emily's question, I had shared with my group about CoSpaces. Last week, we had the opportunity to sit in with Jamie Donnelly for AR, VR, and EDU. And we also got to tinker in CoSpaces, and she showed us that you could actually code. So with history, you could actually create a scene from some type of event, and you could actually have the kids add their coding to program and animate that scene, make it come to real life. So maybe that's something you could look into as a possible suggestion.
Before we wrap up, I do think it's really important to recognize our conversation facilitators, Ryan Berger and Renee Decker and Regina Peckman and Eric Bieber. They, thank you guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys.
Yes. And again, if you have any questions or if you have any concerns, I want to try something, I need somebody to bounce ideas off of, we are putting our contact information on that document and it's there for you. Oh, I did want to mention there were some people that wanted to know more about code.org. On that Let's Code resources, there is a place where you can find a workshop to get a one-day training, or there's a place that you're like, hey, I would like to get a training, but there's no trainings near me. You can request, hey, we'd like to have a training in this area, and code.org will come to you. There was somebody that had talked about wanting to know more about Swift Playgrounds. There is an Hour of Code Swift Playgrounds document. There's also an Apple Teacher Learning Center where you can get a Swift Playground badge, so you could kind of learn it as you go, which is really nice. And then there's some resources with Scratch, some unplugged stuff, and then information about the grants. The Pennsylvania Targeted Grant, which will give districts like $30-some thousand over the course of a year. That's due on December 17th at 11:59 p.m. Yikes. And then the larger grant, which is more of an entity, is due December 29th. But there's some information on that document regarding that as well. Is there anything else that we should cover before we sign off? And Jen, thank you for that comment in there. Okay, well, we would like to thank you for coming. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you were able to make some connections or think about something in maybe a little different way, or feel validated in the work that you are doing around computer science. So, thanks.